Welcome to the Aquarius theory. In today's video, we will be going over sacred geometry. The book I will be referencing is the Quadrivium, the Four Classical Liberal Arts of Number, Geometry, Music, and Cosmology. The Quadrivium is written by many authors, but we will be pulling information from Miranda Lundy, who is the author of the first and second book in the Quadrivium, the first book containing sacred number, the second book containing sacred geometry. When I started to delve into the information, it was evident that a lot of this information is being pulled from ancient Greek concepts. It is said that the Greeks got a lot of their information from ancient Egypt. That is up for debate, and we will go over that later on, but for now let's focus on sacred geometry. The Quadrivium states that geometry is the order of space as numbered in space. In order to get a proper perspective on sacred geometry, let's take a quick look at sacred number in the Quadrivium. In the introduction of number, it states that all science has its origin in magic, and in the ancient schools, no magician was unschooled in the power of number. It then goes into speaking about the qualities of each number 1 through 12, which we will go over now. So in sacred numbers, they go as follows. 1 represents unity, the Great Spirit. 2 represents duality or polarity. 3, the triad, represents balance. 4 represents the tetrad or manifestation. 5 represents the penta or life and reproduction. 6 represents hexad or perfection and structure. 7, heptad, represents spiritual perfection or structure. 8, octa represents the bridge of heaven and earth, ideal cosmic transformation. 9, enad represents the celestial number of order or the triad of triads. 10 represents the decad containing the numbers 1 through 9. 11 represents measurement or the measure of a circle. And 12 represents heaven and earth, the material universe, or 3 generations of 4 fundamental particles. Again, sacred geometry charts the unfolding of number in space. It is said to study and practice of geometry can facilitate the evolution of the soul. Understand that geometry unfolds in 4 stages. The non-dimensional point, which moves to become a line, which in turn moves to become a plane, finally achieving solidity as the tetrahedron. It's important to remember that many ancient teachings have described sacred geometry as the blueprint of creation and the genesis, the origin of all form. In my last 2 videos, I went over the 7 Hermetic principles. If you haven't watched those videos, I advise you go back and give them a watch, because they will give you a better understanding of the information we're about to go over in sacred geometry and the correlation that it may have to creation. So to begin with, we have the point. The point is the first thing that can be done. It is without dimension and is not in space. Without an inside and an outside, the point is the source for all which now follows. The point is represented as a small circular dot. The first dimension, the line, comes into being as the one emerges into 2 principles, active and passive. The point chooses somewhere outside of itself a direction. Separation has occurred and the line comes into being. A line has no thickness, and it is sometimes said that a line has no end. 3 ways now become apparent. First, with one end of the line stationary or passive, the other is free to rotate and describe a circle representing heaven. Secondly, you have the active point that can move to a third position equidistant from the other 2, thus describing an equilateral triangle. Thirdly, you have the line can produce another which moves away until distances are equal to form a square representing Earth. 3 forms, circle, triangle, and square, have manifested. All are rich in meaning. Now let's take a deeper look into circles. And to do this, we will be doing comparative analysis with the book of Genesis in the King James Bible. Remember, Thoth, the Egyptian deity, is said to be the creator of the 7 Hermetic principles, or 7 Kemetic principles, and that first principle is the principle of mentalism. Everything is mind, the universe is mental. To try to illustrate this in the best way possible, I'm going to skip over to John chapter 1 verse 1, where it says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." In terms of sacred geometry, God would be represented as the point, in which all things come in existence from. With that in mind, let's take a look at the book of Genesis for more information. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. With the completion of the second day, we get the second geometrical pattern from 2 encompassing circles called the Vesica Pisces. As we continue to move through the book of Genesis, let's remember the meaning of the sacred numbers as they are represented by the circles in the days of creation. Moving along, on the 3rd day God created the earth, and he separated the land from the seas. He also created the trees and the fruit and herb. In sacred geometry, this symbol, or these 3 circles encompassing each other, is known as the tripod of life. In theology, we know this as the Holy Trinity. So on the 4th day, God created the stars, the sun, and the moon, all the lights in the firmament. On the 5th day, God created all the creatures of the earth, blessing them by saying, "Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the waters and the seas, and let the fowl multiply in the earth." On the 6th day, God created man, as we all know, stating that God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth." And on the 7th day God ended his work which he had made. And he rested on the 7th day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the 7th day, and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made. In sacred geometry, this pattern is called the seed of life, and it also represents the 7 days of creation, as previously stated. You see, it only goes up from here, because we find geometrical patterns all throughout nature. And you see, we've only went over the circle aspect. We haven't got into 3-dimensional figures, or the Platonic and Archimedean solids, or all the other geometrical symbols that encompass sacred geometry. And even though I'm still learning about sacred geometry myself, I will go ahead and give you my personal interpretation of the information. You see, all the videos I've done up to this point deals in the metaphysics, the first principle of things. So my first video dealt with astrology and numerology, dealing with self. My second video delved into the 7 Hermetic principles, which deals with the laws of the universe. And this video goes over sacred geometry, which in my estimation goes over the physical manifestation of energy into the material universe. You see, I am of the mind that by knowing yourself, knowing the universe, and knowing the world around you and how they all operate, that you will be able to build yourself a solid foundation to withstand anything that comes at you in life. And with a solid foundation, you can build to newer heights, and you could become the best version of yourself. But in order to do that, you must challenge old paradigms, old ways of thinking, Thoth speaks about this in the Immortalis, saying that time changes not, but all things change in time. So remember, do your own research and know that perception is reality. This will be the end of today's lesson. So make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on the notification bell, and leave a comment down below and let me know if there's any information you would like me to go over. But before I leave, I have to give a big shout out to Mfly Music. They did the instrumental of Apple Tree by Erykah Badu that I'm playing on this video today. So make sure y'all check out their channel and subscribe. And as always, peace, love, and light.